Is there any free will to be found in this universe? The answer is yes, but much less than what its believers suspect and much more than to what its doubters cling. Let us start by saying the obvious. Neither a storm, nor a squirrel, nor a star has free will. They all act as they must. They are all a product of their preceding condition. I think we all know this on a gut level, but how far down the collapse of information does this intuitive condition apply? Can an orangutan or a corvid choose? Can a child? Can an infant? The determinists, the godless, will say the mountaineer has no choice but to wrestle the mountain, the navigator to wrest from the land its horizon, the scientist his metrics, the astronomer his light. He is, they say, bound by his internal chemical composition and the math of his surroundings, by nature and nurture. Now, they are not entirely wrong, but when dealing in as bright and vibrant a mechanism as free will, even a glimmer of which can ramify and pullulate through the ages, and what's more, even if through the history of humanity there was but a single glimmer, by that glimmer set the binary categorical precedent, establish the rule of the nature of our existence, then to say its detractors are not entirely wrong is to say that they are categorically incorrect. Besides the new studies into room temperature, quantum nature of the tubular structures laced through our brain matter, besides whatever other physics you want to throw at the thing, besides divine revelation, we can know that our threads do not wend their way through the fabric of existence after the same fashion as rocks and rivers and ferns and forests. These things and all other elements of reality, at least in the local neighborhood, besides us humans, wend their way through the fabric of existence at a regular and rhythmic pace. They follow the momentum of the patterns set into motion at the beginning of the braid. The determinists, the godless, are right in a way, in a narrow way, by implication, by implied extrapolation, insofar as they see that there is an ultimate inevitable end, a final implacable shape toward which we, all, every unit of reality, is inexorably falling. Some others might call it the divine plan, but their theories deteriorate when we introduce us, man, into that equation, on the way to that end. So let's begin at the beginning. Let's see if a fetus or an infant has free will. Well, that didn't take very long. Both your gut intuition and, if you have one, your rational mind instantly recognize that an infant can make no choice. So at least one end of man's spectrum is set. There do exist humans which do not have free will. The next question is, of course, is the development of free will just a function of how long the brain bread bakes in the life oven? You can say with certainty it is not. There is no definite point in time or biological morphology through which we can pass and point to and say, yes, now we have matriculated from the impotent psychopathy of youth to a fully fledged creature capable of self-determination and individuation, as evidenced anecdotally by the all too common man-child or the teneral appetites of a child-woman. We can, however, be sure of the existence of the other side of that spectrum by observing that sometime in our species' development, we developed the ability to lie. That is to say, to act in opposition to nature, capital N. More on truth and lies in an upcoming video. I am, of course, not at all saying that to lie is to exercise free will. Even the 3-year-old, still in total thrall to his appetites, will start lying to get away with the cookie. Rather, I am saying it is man's fallen state which allows us to rise. Our natural ability to act unnaturally, to unknit our thread from the tapestry, to rise from and stand outside the rivers, the oaks, the bumblebees, natural, tangled, rhythmic prison, to outrage reality, to transgress nature, to conduct ourselves disgracefully, establishes the principle that it is possible for us to do what no other entity on this earth can do, to act with grace. So, what feats does it take to achieve this blessed state? What mountains must we climb to command knowledge enough of the dizzying fields of possibility? Well, allow us, as it seems will be and is customary with most of my videos, to just absolutely beat into the ground the metaphor. It is indeed a mountain we must climb to begin to even have the hope to choose. Even before climbing the mountain, though, comes the groundwork. Pun intended. To wrestle the mountainside, you must be clear of mind and intention, studied in pitfall and viper, free in breath, strong of gastrocnemius and quadricep, sure of foot. And none of those come free or naturally. The preparations for your expedition are the first susurrations of free will, of the claiming of your birthright, of the fulfillment of your telos, the pain and pleasure and undeniable progress that comes with ripping our very fibers apart in the gym and on the trail, and figuring out how to, and then concentrating on knitting them back together with good sleep, nutrition, and hydration is enough to introduce the category of meaning, but not quite enough to cohere into complete sense. It is the meter, but not the verse. But say you condition your animal. You study up on the fangs and the thorns and the storms you might meet on the way. Then you translate your value to society via the tool of employment with the mechanism of currency into lightweight, sturdy armor against cold and hunger and thorns and rocks, superating plant oils and cunning predators. And one Friday morning finds you ready, body hardened, mind sharpened, geared up, and you grab your rucksack and put your work to work. You institute your pursuit. This pilgrimage still is not the choice, but it is the first full sentence. And the sentence is a question, if constructed well enough, a question which commands an answer that, if and when fully spoken, at its completion, leaves you at the summit. So you have asked your question. You are here. The braved and conquered dangers of the body are behind you, but the perils of the mind are before. Though in your triumph and before such splendor, it might not seem it, here you are in mortal danger of losing more than just your animal. Your preparations for the journey and the journey itself have not done nothing. As you learned about and then dodged vipers and balanced electrolytes, you became wiser. But you have yet to truly test this fledgling wisdom. You have thrust yourself up into the wilds of the atmosphere, situated your gaze blessedly in the middle of an onslaught of information. You have placed your animal within the torrent of possibility, capital P, and you see there is more work to do, a new category of work. Obviously, you did not come here to retrace your steps backwards, nor did you come here to fling yourself with neither heed nor favor in some random direction down another side of the mountain. No, you must survey the horizon, witness what strange and wonderful and awesome and fearsome shapes reality has to offer you. You must weigh your options. Let prudence, curiosity, practicality, passion exercise against each other. You must not be hasty. You must give yourself time to comprehend the shapes with which you are faced, to understand their mechanisms, to understand that to which those colors refer, and let their underlying structures, those proper nouns, vie for your favor. You must meditate, not after the Eastern fashion, which is blank and empty and passive and selfish, but after the Western fashion, which is active, proactive, productive, interactive. Let the land's last and final victor rise until it commands the panorama of your mind. After these meditations, here, finally, in this rare space, at this rare time, can one choose. Here can man assess, select, and forge on to individuate and self-determine. It is here when you choose whether you will blot and blotch, smear and discolor, corrupt and destroy the story upon the tapestry, or whether you will humbly, carefully decide to be its faithful custodian and contribute a considered, disciplined, beautiful, truthful line or two to the vast, awesome image. After his planning, he can leap joyously down his chosen path, now more guiding his momentum than he is wrestling with the probabilities of both his animal nature and that of reality, of existence, of the inherent gravity and all its parallel forces ever pulling you back down the mountain. He can zoom through the valleys and across the rivers, assisted by and all the while adding to all the knowledge, skill, and strength it took to make it to each treacherous crossing. And spurred on by that ever-lengthening vector, the momentum first gathered from that joyous descent, the self conquered with each step, he finally gains his quarry. Now, he is there, standing in the space he saw those many months ago, but either consciously or subconsciously, he knows gaining that tectonic mystery was not ever truly his aim. I'm sure you take my meaning. And now, at the end of his journey, or much more accurately, this leg of his journey, he can begin to gather himself in preparation to summit the next mountain, and the next, and the next, until he finds himself comfortable at home, nowhere else, doing nothing else than wrestling at the top of each mountain, looking out, clear of conscience, over reality like a marmoreal spindrift in a silent war cry, having fought for and earned yourself.